fellow crafters, this is Yana Smakula for simonsstm.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana video. In this episode, I will show you how to create a modern one-layer greeting card using a background stamp and an easy masking technique. I'm starting with a piece of cardstock. This is Simon Says Stamp SLATE. It's cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and it will make the front of my card. I'm going to mask a 1/4 inch off on each side of this panel, and to do that, I'm using low-tech tape. This happens to be washi tape from my stash, but any low-tech tape will do here. I'm also using the grid lines off the paper pad on my work surface to measure the 1/4 inch off the edge of the panel and simply taping those edges off. I'm also using my bone folder to burnish the tape to make sure it sticks to the paper. Now, don't do this if the tape you're using is very sticky, as you'll make it even stickier and it might rip your paper when you go to remove it later. You just need the tape to securely and evenly stick to the paper all over the edge. If it doesn't stick everywhere, you run the risk of embossing powder piling under the tape and creating a bit of a mess. With the tape in place, I'm going to place this panel inside my MISTI stamping tool. The tape actually does a double duty here. It not only masks the edges, but it also holds the paper in place inside the MISTI. I want to heat emboss a background on this panel, and in order to keep it neat, I'm using my anti-static powder tool and treating the paper to eliminate any grease from my fingers or any static. The background I'm using today is Cosmos Blooms. It's a new 6x6 cling background stamp from Simon. It's a beautiful one for coloring. You have nice, large flowers, but it's also a great one to do these simple heat embossed cards. I'm all for simple and quick, so this background is just perfect for the idea that I have in mind. I'm making this background thoroughly using my Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink and stamping it on the paper. I'm repeating this a few times to have a perfect impression on my panel. Now I can peel the panel off from the MISTI and cover it with embossing powder. I happen to love the look of gold embossing powder on dark papers, so for this card I thought that antique gold embossing powder would look ideal here. Next, I need to heat up my heat tool. I usually like to preheat it for a couple of seconds before taking it to the paper, and then melt the embossing powder on the background. I honestly never get tired of watching this. It's one of those most magical things in card making. I'm making sure to melt the powder on the tape as well, not only on the paper, as I will be using the same tape as a mask when doing some ink blending in a second, and I don't want to drag any unembossed powder particles across my background. I just don't want them to mess it up in any way. Now I flip the panel backside up to make it easier to pick the right color of ink for the ink blending. I want to ink blend the edges of the panel to darken them up a little bit. Sparrow ink from Simon looks like the most appropriate color. So this is the color I'm going to go with. Using my round ink blending tool, I'm bringing a bit of the color in from the masked edges of the panel and towards the center, but keeping the center clean. This helps the embossing powder pop even more, and it also helps to frame the design. Time to peel the tape off and reveal our background. I love this part. It's kind of like opening a birthday present. So this is our background finished. Looks very modern and trendy, I think. You can easily do this in any other color. Doesn't have to be gray. Perhaps you'd like a more cheerful card, so pink or red or purple can be easily used for this. I also need to create a sentiment for this card, so here I'm heat embossing Just Because sentiment from Simon's new Greetings Mix 1 set in the same antique gold embossing powder, but on white cardstock this time. Finally, we need to assemble the card and add a few embellishments. I've already adhered the background to an A2 white card base, and now I'm using the black foam squares to foam mount the sentiment strip. I like to use black here instead of white, as white will be very visible if you look at this card from the side, while black will blend in with the dark background. Next, I'm using a white Sakura pen to color the flower centers. I debated doing this. I'm always afraid to mess up my cards like this, but I figured why not give it a try. I colored one of the flower centers, I liked it, and then I colored the rest. I also used sequins from Simon Says Stamp to decorate this card, a few from the Raindrops set, and a couple from the Gala set. I hope you will give this idea a try. If you do make a card inspired by this video, we'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We love seeing what you guys are making. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Do hit that bell icon to be notified of every new upload. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!